You're listening to That's Apparent with Tanya and Sean.
So welcome back to That's Apparent Podcast, Episode 5. I am Tanya and joined here by my awesome husband, Sean.
Oh, thanks.
And we are going to be talking about marriage today.
I am pretty awesome.
Yeah, you are. So this is the first time we've really gotten to dive into this topic a little deeper. Little break from talking about children. And we hope that this is helpful for some of you out there that don't have children yet and some of you that do. So we have a lot to discuss here, Sean.
Yes, we do. Because we've been together for a very long time.
Very long time. And not necessarily just marriage, relationships as well. If you're not married, we have been together for 19 years.
Yeah, almost
19 years, and married for how many? 11? 13? Sure. No, 13.
No, 13. Yeah, 13.
Almost 13. So you start to lose track after a while.
Yeah, almost 13.
Yeah. So we have tons to discuss. How to keep your marriage and relationship fresh after all those years, which can be quite a challenge. And not going to say that we're perfect by any means or have this totally figured out.
No.
We are still figuring it out daily and have faced many challenges along the way. So what do you think, Sean, might be one of our number one tips here?
Communication.
That's a big one.
Is huge in any relationship. Because it's usually what you're not saying that is kind of the root of a lot of problems. Mm-hmm. And we've always been, we're not like the best at communicating, but we also don't really hide things from each other either. Mm-hmm. So like, eventually we come out with it.
Sometimes it's a little longer than it should be, maybe, but...
Right, like we go like 6 months without our like, we do like a 6 month like sit down chat kind of thing, don't we? Where
we're
like,
it seems that way.
Let's tell each other how we really feel. And we should probably be doing it a lot more often than
and we
every
even
6
say
months.
We're going to move forward and do monthly check-ins with each other.
It should probably be monthly.
It probably should be.
Or more often than that.
And we don't, because life happens and gets in the way. And with your busy schedules and kids, it's a little crazy.
It's very distracting.
It is crazy.
The parent life, so.
Yeah, so communication is huge. Definitely honesty in that communication. And sometimes honesty can hurt sometimes and be hard, but it's definitely necessary to be fully open about your feelings, because if not, how can you fix anything and move forward? You really can't. So
yeah, that's a good point you brought up, because like one thing that is important to realize, that like it's important to be honest with each other, but like you said, like that honesty can hurt people. And what needs to be emphasized here is that even though you're telling someone like the truth and you think that that's the best policy, just be honest with the person, even if it's, something that might hurt their feelings. What you need to understand is that honesty is maybe true in that moment. Like that's how you're feeling in that moment, and you're sharing that. But that doesn't mean that it's like the absolute all the time truth. It's there's variables in play that can change all of those things. So you might want to think about that in advance before being like too honest with someone. Like you have to like kind of check yourself and be like, is this 100% true all the time, or is this just like a temporary truth? Because if it's just a temporary truth, maybe I don't need to mention it because, it's not going to help anything. You're being honest, but are you really helping the situation? Probably not. Maybe don't say it,
Maybe think in the future as to what can this comment or this truth bring out? What what can come from this positively. And if you can't think of a lot that's going to come positively from it, or if you think it's going to make things worse, then yeah, probably not a good idea to bring that up.
Yeah, you should always approach a relationship from the angle of what can I do or say that's going to be positive or that's going to make things better.
You can attract more bees with honey or
Right.
something.
Right.
Wait, you don't want bees though.
What?
You can attract more flowers? I don't know. I forget how that saying
No,
goes.
you said you had it right. You
Was
can
it?
attract more bees with honey. Yeah.
Then
It's just
vinegar?
an expression. It's not that people
Yeah.
necessarily want bees around, but it's
Oh, it's bees and vinegar. Yeah, okay. Attract more bees with honey than vinegar. Next up would probably be freshness and keeping your relationship new, because that's really hard to do when you've been together for so long.
yeah, because it's not new.
It's definitely not.
So
That is
Yeah.
definitely a hard task. And I feel like we are just discovering that this year. After all this time, I think we've kind of figured out something that was really key, and that is date nights.
yeah, because I think we were kind of like, you know what's not cool? That we're not newlyweds anymore. It's like,
No,
like
that's not cool. Yeah.
that's like an exciting kind of time, and once you're over that, it's so much less exciting to just be married. So like, I think like the key to like combating that is to just try a lot of new things together.
Yes. And you get into the same routine and the same rut, basically, of the same stuff every day. And that's when things start to get really rough and boring. And
Right.
switching things up definitely has a huge play in helping things move smoothly.
Right.
And you need something to look forward to. So we actually wanted to share something that we just started doing. We've always been pretty good about date nights because we do have grandparents that are very eager to babysit, so we're lucky in that fact. But I would say we used to maybe do date nights, what do you think, maybe 4 or 5 times a year, maybe?
Yeah, maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah, I mean, with events, a lot of times though, it was for an event. It was, we're going to this event and there's going to be all these other people there. A lot of times it's not just us going out together. It's us going to something or a wedding or somewhere else without the kids, but not just alone. So we started a new date night theory, I guess, where we are doing a date night every 2 weeks and taking turns having a different set of grandparents babysit. So, ultimately they're only babysitting 1 time a month, each of them. And for the date nights, we are rotating whose turn it is to plan the date night. Because let's face it, if you're the planner of the relationship and there's only one of you probably that is the planner, and you're the one that's always stuck planning some kind of an event or date night, like that gets kind of old after a while. And you're always...
And it can be very one-sided then too. 'Cause,
True. Very,
when
yes.
when you're planning everything, like you tend to plan things like
that you would enjoy.
right. So naturally.
And also, if you're planning it together and you don't have a plan, which happens or used to happen to us, and we would just say, hey, we're going to do a date night on this day. The day would come around and we would say, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
I don't know. And we many times were sitting in the car like, we don't know where to go. We didn't know if we wanted to go out to dinner, if we wanted to go to a movie.
Yeah, because it's on the spot.
yeah.
Nobody knows on the spot what they want to do.
You can't decide what you want to do. You don't have a plan.
It takes a little bit of work. It takes a little bit of research.
Yeah, it's hard to do that. And this way, when you're planning a date night for your significant other, you can have 2 weeks to plan it. You have 2 weeks to secure the babysitter, make reservations if you need to make reservations somewhere, and decide what you're doing on that date night. And I think we actually are pretty good at trying to do something we think the other person is going to like or be surprised about. And having it be a surprise makes you more likely, I think, to pick something the other person's going to like because you want them to be happy
Surprised.
about,
Yeah.
surprised and happy about where we're going, not aggravated.
Yeah. And it makes the whole thing more exciting then too, because it's like you're thinking about it 2 weeks in advance, like, oh, we're going somewhere. I don't know where, but we're going somewhere. Like,
yeah, it's something to look forward to and helps your work days go faster, helps your weeks go better. It helps your nights, your regular nights during the week a little bit smoother because you're just excited. It gives you somewhat of an excitement to look forward to. And we've noticed a huge difference in how we've only been doing this a month or two now.
like a month and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. So it hasn't been very long and it's definitely still new that we're trying this out, but it's been going pretty awesome so far. And I love it. I think it's
I'm having fun.
something that we should continue because we're trying to try new things and pick new places and
that's why I think that it relates because newlyweds are just like going into life together, experiencing all new things as a couple together.
Everything's new.
And this is kind of emulating that because you're, maybe going to new places for your date night that neither of you has ever been to together. So it's kind of emulating that, first experience kind of part of the relationship. So it is very reminiscent of being a newlywed, which is kind of the idea, and it definitely works, I think.
I think it's been a huge, huge help for us. So I'm looking forward to a whole year of this, and it's going to be a little bit tough once things get real busy in the fall because, let's face it, fall is pretty busy.
Yeah.
And, I know it will be hard to keep up with, but we're going to really try hard to continue this because
and if we've learned anything from being parents is how to be flexible and adapt to variables. So
yes.
it's like,
and this last one went 3 weeks. We had 3 weeks in between
right, because we had a busy weekend.
We had a birthday weekend for one of our children.
It wasn't in the cards. It wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to happen. And instead of
pushing it, we waited a week out and did it anyway. But we were still excited for that extra week and made it happen, and it was awesome. So we will continue this and keep you updated on how that goes. But what's another big thing that we've struggled with or have worked through over the years?
And I think we touched on this in another podcast, but long-term relationships, you're talking about two individuals that have changed a lot over the course of the years.
Yeah.
And those differences are going to take some time to kind of sort through and figure out because, that can cause problems.
That may be one of the hardest things that we've ever experienced because we met so young, which we did say in another podcast, but we were 15 when we met. So we grew a lot and we changed and our personalities changed. Our likes and dislikes changed. We've just really done complete 360s, I think, in personalities. And we're now different people than we were when we first met. So we almost need to rediscover our new personalities and find things that we kind of like about each other now rather than looking back at who we were before because we're really not those same people anymore.
Yeah, it's really pointless to stress over oh, well, we used to have all of this in common and now we don't. And it's
create new things in common.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't matter.
That's something that I also want to try, which we haven't really done yet, but I want to create new things that we are doing or experiencing together, which is happening with the date nights, but even taking a class together, like maybe taking a cooking class together, or I mentioned last night, I really want to try glass blowing. I know it's kind of crazy, but something like that, some kind of class, exciting new interest that you can try together. I know everybody is into watching movies and TV shows now, so that's something we've always kind of had in common. Watching,
Thanks for saying watching movies and not dropping any
I did
names
not.
of large corporations.
I did not. So watching your favorite TV series together and creating that in common, and it's still something you can talk about. What's going to happen on the next one? What do you think is going to happen? Creates, multiple doors for conversations there. And, we've also, as parents, fallen into the rut of going out on a date night and talking about our kids most of the time. And I do feel like these last couple date nights, we really haven't so much. And I think that actually helps because, of course, when you do have kids, that's something you have in common. You have your kids in common. But to go out and, talk about your kids when you're out by yourselves really kind of defeats the purpose of your date night.
You're gonna wind up doing it anyway, but
you will
try
to
to
a point.
try to limit it because it's you two are out together,
Yes, that's when you can talk about
other things,
more personal things you can't talk about in front of the kids, and discover more things that you have in common. But
I feel like
to
people stress about what they have in common, or we don't have anything in common anymore. You're constantly creating new things that you have in common. If you had
Yes.
kids together, then you have those children in common.
Yes.
Number one, and
all of your experiences in your day-to-day life is in common because
you're sharing common experiences
sharing all of that.
daily. So there's always something new, that you have in common that you could talk about.
Right.
But also even this, we're making a podcast right now together. We're creating something together. This is now something new that we have in common.
This is the first time we've ever done anything like this together, or
Right.
any kind of side project or business together. So this is exciting for us.
Because we're both creative people, but me especially, that is me. That defines me. I'm a creator. And if I don't create, I start to go crazy. So for me, this is therapeutic, I need to create something. And the fact that we're creating this together is, something new that we have in common, that it's
So we're
just
saying
helpful.
that if you don't have anything in common, create something in common.
It's not an excuse. Just make something together.
Something I feel very strongly about is not looking back at the past and bringing up issues from the past, and instead looking forward to the future. Because if you're constantly bringing up things and issues and problems that you've had in the past, or going back and saying, well, I liked things how it used to be then, or I want it to get back to being that way, you're never going to be able to move forward and grow because you're always thinking about what used to be, or
you can't go back.
Yeah,
So
you
you might as
can't.
well accept that you can't go back.
You
all
can't.
all you can do is try to make the future the best that you can.
So going forward is the best possible advice I think that we can provide. And think of things in the future that are exciting that you're looking forward to. Vacation, things with your children as they're growing up, and where you see them in 5 years, where you see yourselves in 5 years. Looking forward to what you can create and do together in the next, 5, 10, 15 years in the future will give you something to push for and push forward into instead of going back. Going backwards is not an option. You're never going to be able to do that. So all you can do is make today great and make tomorrow even better.
Yeah,
know?
I think, and I heard this somewhere, and I forget where, but to achieve what you are passionate about in life, it's whatever you put momentum behind. So if you put your momentum behind a goal that you have in mind, a goal that you've set for your relationship, a goal that you've set for really anything, any aspect of your life that you're looking to improve upon, if you put your energy, your momentum behind that, you will get there. It's just people have a hard time aligning that energy.
And it can get lost along the way. I envision in my head a roller coaster where you're on the right path, and all of a sudden there's a turn to the left or right and you get off track. So
It's easy.
it's
Especially
very easy.
as a parent, too, with all of those distractions.
It's very easy to get off track. And bringing yourself back can be hard. It can be like starting over again almost. So there are moments where we've felt like we were at the bottom and then all of a sudden, we really worked really hard and pushed through. So you can do it. You can do it. If you put your thoughts and your momentum behind it, you can get there.
Right. But it's important to be on the same page, and
Yes.
that requires communication. So
Yes. So honest communication is key, and date nights are key, and creating or having new things in common is key. And let's see what else.
I feel like, and I just want to mention real quick that I think women in a relationship tend to try to like always be the fixers. Don't you think? Like,
Yes.
I think they're ultimately like the
glue
yeah.
that needs to hold it together, basically.
They probably feel like they need to be because they're just, I mean, I think that, it's obvious that women are more kind of naturally wired to be like the more emotional and the more caring about, about relationships in general. So they're going to be the ones that are going to be like, well, we have these problems and, well, I'm going to fix it. And these are the things that I'm going to do. And that should work and that should fix the problem. But the problem with that is like, you're going at it alone. You're like trying to like secretly kind of like,
It takes two people to
yeah,
fix
you're
things.
trying to like secretly manipulate a certain outcome to try to like, to try to fix an issue. And and that's not going to work. And I'm going to tell you why, because you're leaving out the other half of the equation, and that is your spouse. And it doesn't matter if your spouse is a man or a woman or whatever, like, there's all kinds of couples out there. So I'm not being dismissive of that. It doesn't matter. The point is you need to involve your significant other. It doesn't have to be husband, wife, whatever. It can be just relationship. I'm talking in general. You have to involve your partner in the process. You have to be on the same page. You need to communicate to them, look, these are our current struggles.
Mm-hmm. You need to make sure that they know you have problems.
And this is the plan. Do you agree
Yes.
with this plan? Are you going to actively
help in this plan to move
assist
forward.
in this plan so that we can get some real benefits out of this? And, I don't, is there really anyone that would, that would opt out of that? Because you're just trying to help. You're just trying to make things better. Who isn't for that, unless it's over.
Yeah.
But I mean, and sometimes it's better to know that right out of the gate so you're not wasting your time and energy. I think that was my rant. Sorry. I got that off my chest.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. I feel that's very valid, and having two willing participants in fixing things and keeping things new and fresh and happy are key, because if you don't, I mean, you can make things better yourself. If you have a spouse that is unwilling to really put effort, you can still try and put your effort in alone. It's not going to work nearly as good as if you had both people on board, for sure. But don't let that, make you just totally give up and say, well, they're unwilling, I'm just going to give up. I think every relationship deserves a fair try at making it work. So
Yeah.
I would definitely still suggest trying as hard as you can to move forward. But when you can be on the same page and have two people working together, it's going to go so much better. And really, some of the things that we've suggested, like the date nights and things like that, you need to both be involved in that. It's not going to be that fun if just one person is the only one doing that.
Right.
And then in regards to fixing things, that takes me to having fights. And
I was just going to talk about that too. It's see,
how to deal with having fights.
that's the cool thing about being a couple for nearly 20 years is like
we pretty much read each other's
we're pretty
minds.
much twinning. Like we could finish each other's sentences, which is really cool.
Yeah, we have
But yeah,
ESP.
I was going to talk about fights too.
Yeah, so we are really rare in the fact that we do not fight pretty much ever.
Right. We're both non-confrontational people, which is,
It's good and bad, actually.
In
both regards. It's good in the fact
it's
of
helpful for our relationship.
Yeah, for us, we're not fighters. We don't want to fight.
We don't try to fight.
We try not to. We try to let things go as much as we can and be pretty easygoing and flexible. But there are times when, of course, you're going to fight or bicker, or you're just one or two of you are in a bad mood and it just comes out. So how do you deal with that when you fight? And everybody's different on how they make up, how they handle fighting. I think what you had said about men and women, Sean, fixing relationships, how women are the fixers, I feel like that's the way in fights as well. Definitely women want to fix
They want to
resolve the fight right away. I'm definitely on the camp of never go to bed mad. So I like to resolve it right away, whereas Sean leaves the room, walks away.
If I have nothing nice to say, I don't say anything at all.
He just leaves.
So I clam up and I leave.
Where are you going?
Because I'm happy to finish, the discussion the next day once everything is calmed down, but not her.
Nope, no. I need it figured out that night. I can't relax. I can't go to sleep. I can't be calm unless we get it worked out. So, you're definitely probably a different fighter than your spouse is. Everybody has their own differences that way.
I'm sure there are women out there that are kind of like the antagonizer, though, too. The ones that, maybe they are the confrontational ones.
Maybe it's women or men. It could be either.
Maybe you and your spouse are both the confrontational ones, which can lead to a very heated relationship at times.
Rough.
And we can't really relate to that because that's not how either of us are wired. But we understand that exists out there, and the only thing that we can say is don't stress so much the fact that you guys are fighting, because some conflict is good. Some conflict is healthy in a relationship.
At least in that respect, you're getting it out. You're getting your feelings known to each other right away.
It's still communication. You're still communicating. Not well. Not well.
Be bad communication.
Yeah, but you're communicating. You're expressing your, your anger or your, unhappiness about something.
Yeah, bottling it up is not good. I mean, when you bottle it up for months and months and months, and then all of a sudden it just comes out, then it explodes and it can be bad. And that's more on how we run is we bottle things up for a year and then it comes out. And then sometimes we're kind of like, well, why didn't we know this sooner? Because this is a long time. But it's just personalities. Every personality is different. So
yeah. Now, if there's people out there that are having relationships where they're arguing a lot, every day, it's becoming difficult to handle. The only thing I can say to that effect is maybe you need to go and see someone that's going to teach both of you how to fight better. Because, you're probably still going to fight because that's just how you're wired. That's how you can't really change that, I don't think. There's going to be things that conflict and you guys are going to, need to discuss. But there's better ways of going about that. You're still going to fight, but your fights are going to be more productive.
More productive.
At the end of it, you're going to have, an outcome, a resolution, some sort of, common ground or some sort of, resolution at the end of it that says, okay, well, that's handled now. We went over that and we came to a conclusion.
So another tip some of you may have heard already and may already be using is never use the word you when you're fighting. So if something your spouse does that aggravates you or is what you're targeting the fight against, using the word you is just going to sound like you're attacking them. And using I statements, I feel, I think, I hope, those kind of statements.
Which is just going to transform into, I feel like you piss me off when you do this.
I mean, it could, but we're trying to avoid that here.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it's definitely something you have to think about in the moment of the fight, because let's face it, when you're fighting, nobody's really taking the time to think about what you're saying. It just comes flying out before you've had the chance to process how it could affect your partner. So it's hard to do, but using accusatory statements towards them is never a good thing. So I would advise against that. And something else would be to put yourself in their shoes. Try to look at the perspective from their point of view, which
is also hard.
Is also hard and takes very good, effective fighting techniques to be able to do that. Definitely, that's a seasoned talent that you have to learn, but it can be done. And just take a step back for a minute and try to switch perspectives and see things from the other side, because there's always two sides to everything.
And that's another thing, is that people probably don't think that they need to learn how to fight, especially men.
No.
They think they know because it's, oh, well, I know how to fight. Trust me, I've heard my parents do it my whole life. Like, they think they just inherently know how to fight, but probably your parents were doing it wrong, and you're probably definitely doing it wrong. So.
Probably 90% of society is fighting wrong.
Yeah.
There are so many better, more effective ways to fight, because let's face it, fighting isn't always bad. Like we stated earlier, it's not always bad to fight. You are both getting out your opinions and your viewpoints.
It can be really healthy, actually.
It can be, but it just needs to be effective.
It has to be done right.
Definitely never fight in a text fighting.
Yeah,
it's probably not a good idea.
That just leads to misinterpretations, and it can make things a whole lot worse.
And you can't tell people's tone of voice and how they're talking in text, and that's
there's always
hard.
There's always one person in a couple that tries to initiate a fight via text. So don't engage. Just be like, hey, we'll
chat when we get home.
Let's discuss this later in person. Or don't say later, because that sounds like you're dismissing it. Like, schedule it. Literally just schedule the talk to go over whatever the issue is.
Yeah, and definitely add in some positives when you're fighting, which again, I know you're always going to go towards everything negative when you're fighting, but the only way that your partner is going to be open to receiving criticism is if they get thrown a little bone, basically, of positives. Like, they need something to say, hey, I am doing a good job in XYZ, so it's okay that you feel like I'm not doing a good job in this other area, and I'm going to try harder. They're not going to think like that if all you're hitting them with is the negatives. You know, one negative after another. It's not going to be effective, right?
Yeah, no, nobody is going to be very receptive to, just constantly feeling like they're being attacked.
Yeah, because then they shut down. I mean, I would emotionally shut down from that and not respond, either not respond or not respond well to being attacked like that. And let's face it, women, we're all criers. Maybe not all of us, but a lot of us are. I know I am, and maybe some men out there too. But, if I'm feeling attacked, I'm just going to cry. And that's not going to really have my mindset be on solving anything at that point. So having positives thrown in there will help that and help you feel like there is, nothing is all wrong. There's nothing all negative.
Even if it's an argument, try to steer it so that it feels more like a conversation and less like a shouting match.
Yes. Shouting's never going to accomplish what you want it to accomplish.
And you have the control to do that. Sometimes you just have to be the better person to try to steer it in that direction. Because if you change the tone of your voice and you lower the level of your volume, you're gonna find that the person, your partner, is going to start to match that tone and start to match that volume, because it just doesn't make sense for one person to be shouting while someone's talking in a more rational tone. So you can steer it. You can sometimes steer the conversation. So give that a try. That's like a little strategy, a little technique.
Also, I feel like you should keep your fights to one topic. Trying to combat more than one issue in the really same fight is going to be hard, because you're going to feel very overwhelmed. Yeah. you're not going to be able to think clearly enough to have the steps to fix that problem if you are looking at 100 problems.
Right. You're only really going to be able to address one thing at a time. So why bring up multiple? Don't do that. You're just complicating everything. All you're doing there is adding ammunition, to the argument. And
then your spouse is going to walk away from that feeling very defeated, overwhelmed, and
attacked.
not know how to start fixing things if they're looking at fixing so many problems at once.
Right.
It will be much easier to tackle one thing at a time. So try to keep your fights short and sweet, basically.
And on topic.
Yes.
Just one at a time.
On the one topic, and move forward on working on that. So
as you can tell, like there's so much to be discussed, because we've been like rambling on this one podcast about relationships.
We could probably add at least 5 more podcasts in a row about this same topic.
And we probably will. So don't feel like this is the only one that's going to be discussing marriage and relationships. So hopefully there's some information in here that was helpful to you. If it's been an ongoing relationship for a long time, then you may relate to some of this. And hopefully there's some tips that if you're experiencing some of these things, some of these strategies may be beneficial to you. But tune into some future podcasts about relationships, and we'll get into even more.
We'll dive much deeper than we did today.
Absolutely. This is just kind of scratching the surface. So
yeah, we can't wait to talk to you next time.
Thanks for joining us again on That's Apparent, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to That's Apparent. Be sure to stay connected by visiting that'sapparentpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook at fb.me/that'sapparent.